Welcome to this episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. I'm Aric.
And I'm Angie.
We are married with a ton of kids.
We have 6 kids total. He has 3 and I have 3.
My name's Hallie and I love riding horses.
I'm Lexi and I love agriculture.
My name's Carter and I love eating.
My name's Chase and I love lifting weights.
My name's Summer and I love spending my parents' money.
I'm Dane and I love baseball.
Our show is about our blended, blessed, and always a mess life. And our hope is if you find yourself in the same situation we are in, that by sharing our story, all the fun and all the mess, the challenges we are experiencing, it will give you some inspirations, laughs, and community, knowing you are not alone in this mess.
We appreciate you spending time with us. Let's dive in.
Welcome to this week's episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. And it's always fun to have a teenage daughter, because this morning Summer wanted to get up and run a mile and wanted me to do it with her, which was fine. We try to run around the neighborhood, but it's like 29 degrees outside and she wasn't having it. So we went to the gym and she wasn't lying. She just wanted to run a mile and that was it. So about 9.5 minutes on the treadmill. We spent more time driving to the gym and driving home than we did at the gym. But we got that mile in. I was like, "Are you sure you don't want to stay?" She's like, "I got things to do today." Headed home. That was that. So she's a lot of fun, and we'll talk later about how you guys had a trip together last week that was super fun. But in the past week, I had to MC an event for the American Heart Association. It's a Go Red for Women event, and you were joining me, and you were in St. Louis that day, and you were trying to hustle. You know how life goes. You're going fast, and you were trying to hustle to get back from meetings in St. Louis and join me at this women's event because some doctors were there that you really like in town, and so you were Speedy Gonzalez, and that didn't pay off necessarily.
No. You ever have those moments where you're like, that was the dumbest thing that I have ever done? I mean, it doesn't happen to me very often.
No, not you. No.
Every once in a while, I do something so stupid. But yes, I was in a hurry. I had an hour and a half, 2-hour drive from my meetings, and work's crazy. There's a bunch of emails I wanted to respond to when I got home, but I literally had 10 minutes to change, to send my emails, and then turn around and go meet you. So I did my emails and then went to change, got dressed, and I'm like, God, these pants are like too wrinkly. And I know I'm a black and white type of girl, so I don't have a ton of bright colors. So my red outfits are very minimal. So I did not have a lot of options, and I'm already dressed and getting ready to head out the door. And I'm like, shit, my pants are too wrinkly. But I did buy off of Amazon this little handheld steamer, and it works really great. It's portable.
It really
you can
does.
put in your luggage. There's a bunch to pick from on Amazon, but I never even had a steamer before. But just recently I purchased one. And to minimize time, I decided that I would just try to steam my pants while I had them on, because there's just a few spots.
Sure.
So I can do this. And I started steaming and it was working great. It was working great until I think what happened was I had the steamer sort of upside down and maybe it got some air in there or something. And all of a sudden there was this massive burst of steam that came out when I was sort of in the upper waist area. And I burned the shit out of myself. Like, I'm like, whoa, that hurt. That hurt. And I feel like I got a pretty high pain tolerance. I talk about that with Chase. Yeah. My kids have a high pain tolerance. So like if I say something hurts bad, I might need to go to the hospital. I don't know. And anyway, so then I'm like, oh, that really hurt. And then I take a look at the section and there's a big chunk of skin missing, like already gone. But I have no time. So put some burn cream on it and off I went to the event.
We're over a week out from that. How are you healing in that region?
Oh, it's not in a good spot. It's where, your underwear rubs. So we're working on it. We're working on it.
All right.
But yeah, so here's the PSA. Don't try to steam your clothes when you have it on. It's not good.
That makes sense.
But then, I'm like mad at myself and I think I told you, like, well, I don't know, this sounds really probably real and raw, but anytime something hurts me, I immediately think about how my daughter had to fight for her life. And I'm like, this is freaking nothing. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be okay with this burn in a bad spot. So then I just move on. Didn't really feel it the rest of the night. It's all good. So
Yeah. And I think on that note, we'll come back to your trip with Summer, but let's just talk about the fact that year 2 is coming up this week. And so when you talk about that rawness and that pain, I feel it. I mean, we all do. Everyone knows what this week is. But as Hallie's mom, you feel it more than anyone. There's not words to put into it. A lady from church stopped me in Sam's last night and asked how we were doing, knowing that it was coming up and going to pray for us and things like that. But do you just want to talk about that a little bit and maybe your Facebook post that you made for other moms this week? And
yeah, I mean, it's you have good days and you have bad days. And, any milestone, I think it's almost worse leading up to the milestone than it is the actual milestone, because you're just replaying everything all the time. I replay all the time, but there's just a lot of realness and rawness that you feel when you come up with like an anniversary date. I have lots of moms that connect with me, and I talked to a mom in Florida this past week that's 11 years into her journey. She told me that year 5's the worst.
Ugh.
And I think it does get harder. I think the outside world sees it as maybe it gets easier over time, but that's not true. Like, the pain never goes away. You learn how to carry it better, to mask it for other people, because the world wants you to move on. No one wants to be around someone that's like grieving and full of pain all the time. And it's reality. I mean, I'm not saying that for someone that feels sorry for me or anything like that. Like, I'm just telling you the truth. Like, that's what it's like. And so one of the moms that I connected with very first after I lost Hallie, that I felt like it was the first person that knew exactly what I felt, that lost her daughter tragically because of other people's decisions. And her daughter, her 3-year anniversary is coming up. And so I wanted to do something to let that mom know that her daughter mattered. And so, yeah, I made a post on our social media just about that anniversary date, but also for other moms out there, because the holidays are hard. So not only do we have Hallie's 2-year anniversary, it's also a holiday. And then you mix in joy because the twins are turning 16 and they're so excited about that. And then you have Christmas, and then you have Hallie's birthday. So we're entering into months long of hard times and joyful times. And that is just so hard to bounce back between pain and beauty every day. There's beautiful moments every day. There's painful moments every day. And trying to battle that exhaustion and still trying to show up for other people, all the things, it's hard. But got sidetracked there. The social media post was also for other moms, and to see their kids' names written out, to say their names. And I asked people that were commenting just to pray for the families through the holidays, because it's hard. They're always going to feel that deep ache for their child. And so if you didn't see that post and you're listening to us on this podcast, just say a quick little prayer for moms especially, but families that are going through the holidays, that are just carrying a heavy weight, that they just maybe feel a little bit lighter.
People say
a little bit more loved and seen, probably, is really what it's about.
Yeah, people keep saying to me, you can tell when people don't have any kind of connection to something like this, because they're like, do you feel like maybe Angie doesn't want to talk about it, or she doesn't want Hallie to be honored in that scenario, whatever that may be. And I'm like, oh, no, she's in a lot of pain, no matter what day it is, or no matter what it is. She prefers that you say Hallie's name, that you honor Hallie and keep her memory alive. And hence the reason that you're doing that with the Facebook post for other moms. It's so that people hear their child's name and know they are remembered, they did matter. And yeah, I think it's beautiful to help other people.
I had put on that post because it's so true. It's like you're not reminding them that they died. We know that they died, but you're reminding them that they lived. They lived. Yeah, I mean, next week's it's always just going to be hard, but
I mean, I would say you were dreading
hard.
it from November 1st. You were like,
yeah,
well, it's November. Like you were dreading it from the get-go. And I was having lunch with our pastor, one of our pastors, Dave, yesterday, who was on our podcast earlier in the year. And he was like, I'm not even going to wish you a happy Thanksgiving because I know that it's not going to be, because this year, the way Thanksgiving falls, the anniversary literally falls around it. So Wednesday is the 2-year anniversary of the shooting. And then Friday is the 2-year anniversary of Hallie going to be with Jesus. And so he just said, I'm not even going to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Just going to pray that your family could find some peace this week to get through it, really.
Yeah, the other heavy thing and also beautiful thing too is, the Lincoln Riley trials all going on right now. And it was all over TikTok, social media, all this stuff. And then someone locally commented Lincoln's name on the Facebook post. And I mean, that's painful beauty, right? You have this tragic thing that happened to this beautiful girl, and the world, is thinking of her and praying for her family. But even in that scenario, it's hard for me to see that and listen to it. And although there's definitely extreme differences in what happened to Lincoln and what happened to Hallie, there's also a lot of commonalities, and it makes me so sick for the mom because she got a phone call, right? Same thing that happened to us. You get this phone call that will forever break you. It will break you. There is no coming back to a whole person after you get a phone call like that. And knowing that someone else's decision, whether it was malicious or it was an accident, their decisions caused your daughter to suffer and caused your daughter to die. Also, our daughters both had to fight for their life, fight to live. And then I have no doubt she will ask, her mom has asked all the same questions of like, why my daughter? Why did this have to happen to my daughter? They're the same age. They're both in college with their whole lives ahead of them. And it's just hard. It's just all hard.
Yeah, the only comfort I ever get from any of it is that we're not actually supposed to be here in this earth. This is not.
Yeah, we're souls in a human body.
That's right. And heaven is the destiny. And I remind myself often that Hallie is in a better place than we are. And she often is able to show us that in some of the most amazing ways. And, when that happens, you're able to take a step back and breathe and go, she is not just okay, she is better than we are. And then it's like, I can't wait to get to her and be in this extra life that she is living so beautifully. If you just want to touch on what a beautiful sign that you got this week.
Yeah. So when Hallie went into college, she did not know her roommate. And they just hit it off. And so both in animal science, both going down the vet path, love riding horses, barrel racers, like all the commonalities. And they became best friends. And Sydney, her college roommate, got engaged recently. And then her fiance's father fell ill quickly, young, just turned 50 years old, and had a lot of like body aches and stuff. And ended up finding out that he had cancer bad. And so they weren't planning on getting married until 2026, maybe, or 2027, because she's still in vet school. But they decided that they would get married so his dad could be at their wedding. And so they had this beautiful, very intimate ceremony at the hospital. I sent sunflowers, so there's a piece of Hallie there because, they've talked about weddings and stuff. So it's just beautiful, though, that they did that so that his dad could be there, and they got married at the hospital. And I guess, what was that, November
It was
10th
just
or
a couple
11th
weeks
that they
ago.
got
Yeah.
married. They just got married. And Wednesday, I talked to Sid and she'd said he went into hospice and he wasn't doing very good. And then Thursday morning, he passed away. But Wednesday, I told her to tell him to find Hallie.
It's okay. It's a hard time.
I told her to tell him to find Hallie and give her a hug from me. So anyway, and Sid knows all the signs, right, that Hallie's given to us. So she also told him to send them some signs too. So that was on Thursday that he passed away. And then on Friday, I get this text from Sydney, and she's like, oh my God. Her husband wanted to go get a bow because his dad had given him a bunch of stuff to go with a bow. And so while he picked out a bow and while they were waiting on it, they were looking around at other stuff in this store. And he was looking at guns and he was like, oh, this gun is so pretty. And as they look at it, on the gun, it says Legacy HP and has 2 birds on it. And I always say HP's Legacy. That's what I call the series of books. That is Phoenix. My horse's real registered name is HP's Legacy. So here this gun says Legacy HP on it and has 2 birds. And she's like, Hallie's signs are so amazing. And I'm like, Sid, that's not necessarily from Hallie. That's Chris, your father-in-law, and Hallie saying, we found each other. There's 2 birds on it, ducks, that your father-in-law, he loved to hunt. It's saying, these 2 birds, we found each other. Anyway, we were both crying because it's just so crazy. I mean, you can't make that stuff up. You can't make it up. And
a day later, after he passes, that happens.
A day later. And why on that gun? Why 2 birds? Why he bought the gun.
Could have went to any store, could have picked up any gun. So for it to be that, it's just so crazy. The next day.
Yeah.
And to say Legacy HP, when you say HP Legacy for everything we do around the books and the horses, it's crazy. Like I can't.
Yeah. So crazy.
So that was a good one. And I think needed, here we are a week out from everything for you to get another sign from her that is kind of like, hey mom, I'm up here. You'll be here too. We'll get there.
Yeah. And speaking of the books, that's also why I do pre-sales for the books around her anniversary. It gives me something to focus on that's positive, that's good, that's honoring her. So my books have shipped to me for the second series, the Are You With Me? And, I wrote this book really focused on being brave and facing your fears because that's what most of us have to do every day when we get up. We're all afraid of something. We're fearful of something. And what if we just did it anyway? Like if feathers matter, you fly anyway, even with less feathers like Hallie did. Even when people try to tear you down, you fly anyway. And what if we got on a horse anyway, even when we're scared to death? What if that means that we could be free? And that's what Are You With Me is about. Like, are you with me? What is it like to trust God with your life, to trust his plans so that you can ride free or fly free? But I also know that that's not easy. Like I said, I have good days and bad days. I have days where I'm 100% believe God's in the story. He has a bigger plan. I'm going to trust him. And then there's days where it's bad, where it's just I get lost in the why and that it's too hard. But, I think that is the purpose of me writing for sure. And to tell kids at a young age that you are going to be scared, life's hard. But if you trust and you face those fears and you overcome it, you have no idea what's waiting for you on the other side. And I just think it's a reminder for all of us, especially the holidays, especially when things are hard.
Yeah. And so we're excited about the book and be on the lookout for that. Angie even has little horse stuffed animals, I think we've mentioned, that are really cool. If you ever saw one of the phoenix birds that she had knitted, same kind of thing, but with a phoenix horse. And so really excited about it. And if you are listening and you want, you'll be able to get the book at blendedblessedalwaysamess.com. But also if you want Angie to come, maybe you teach at a school and you want her to read. She does love that. Maybe you have a podcast. Sometimes people are listening that has a podcast. If you want her to come on and talk about the book, she would love to do that as well so that she could share more about the story. And I do think it's good for you when you're able to talk about it and share it from a healing perspective of things that do fill your cup. So excited to get it in and see what it looks like. And I know Summer's looking forward to it. She hasn't read it. Neither of the twins have read it. None of my kids have read it. But I know we were just talking to Summer about it last night. She's excited. We talked about Summer at the start of the podcast today, and you guys actually got to spend a fun little girls trip together last weekend that I know you had so much fun and did some TikToks together and all kinds of shopping and good stuff.
Yeah, a couple years ago, actually, it was 2022. We had went to Chicago. My best friend and her daughter, Summer and I. It's actually right before we lost Hallie. There's that weekend in November where it's deer season. Most, the kids are busy, and it was like just a good time to get away. And that was an epic trip because you look back, it was so much fun. She had not been to Chicago, and we shopped and just TikToks and pictures and great food and all the stuff. And you look back at those pictures and it's like, God, I had no idea what was ahead of us. And so her and I decided we were just going to do our first little trip by ourselves. And we went to Dallas like a Saturday through a Monday morning and we had no plans, which was awesome. No plans, just shopped, ate good food, laughed, crawled in bed early, big fuzzy robes. And it was just like a self-care weekend. And it was great. We decided that we're going to do that every year. We're going to pick a different city and just go explore and shop and just retail therapy, man.
I love it.
It's always good for the soul. It's never good for the bank.
Chase tried to stir it up this week when him and I had dinner. He's like, do you know how much they spent? Do you want to talk about it? I'm like, no, I didn't ask. Like,
actually, I will say.
He's like, they stopped counting it so high. I go, Chase, I don't want to know. You're trying to stir shit up and I don't. It's not.
Actually, it's so funny because, we have done more damage at other times shopping than we did when we went to Dallas, just so you know. But it is, I'm sure all moms are like this. It's like when you get close to Christmas, anything that you want, that's Christmas. Oh, you need toilet paper in your bathroom? Stocking stuffer. You need deodorant? Stocking stuffer. But they have their birthdays and Christmas all within the month. So most of what we bought for her was birthday or Christmas. So it was just, we did have an extra suitcase just packed. Because that's a bad thing when you fly somewhere and shop. What are you going to do? So it limits you. So it's probably a good thing.
I loaded their suitcases and I thought, this big one's pretty light. And then when I pulled it back out of the car when we got back, I was like, this is much heavier than it was when I put it in.
Actually, we didn't even hit the 50-pound limit. So we did good.
I thought I'm going to wrap her presents later today. And I'm just glad. Yeah. I am mostly just glad that you had a good time. I know how hard things have been for you. I know how much you're struggling. People can tell that today just with the emotion that you're sharing in the podcast. And I'm grateful to you for that. I know that being that kind of vulnerable in a public platform isn't always easy. And so for you to do that, for people to be able to see and hear, I would just ask that people would continue to pray for our family this week, especially for you, but all of us, because it is just a difficult week, as you've already shared. It's a difficult month and a difficult season. As I was sharing with Pastor Dave yesterday, it'd always be for me so surreal. I think about it now in the last 2 years, wrapping gifts, that we had wrapped so many gifts for Hallie that year.
I was done Christmas shopping pretty much. It
was so weird. And they were under the tree. And then we had to go through and some unwrap, some let kids unwrap on Christmas. Like, we had this for Hallie, but you can unwrap it. It was such a weird experience. And so I think about that now when I'm wrapping gifts. And so those are the little after effects that you still deal with. all the time later that other people don't think about, when it's like, oh, you should be over it by now. It's like, yeah, never going to be over it in this house. So, but again, if you guys would just take time and pray for us this week, we'd really appreciate it. I don't know if you want to share anything today that you're grateful for before we bounce. I never say bounce. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm grateful that next week's going to be a slower week, just from a work perspective. We got Friendsgiving planned, and just we get time with our kids and family and all of that. So just grateful for that. Grateful for the time I've had with the kids, even just this past week. And we've had some good laughs, and grateful for the people that reach out still. And so we've got a great community surrounding us.
Yeah, I'd just say I'm grateful that we are expecting to have the kids for a family dinner this weekend. We never actually have our kids, just our family, on Thanksgiving. We just don't. Your kids are always at their dad's on Thanksgiving, and then we celebrate at your mom's the following Saturday. So just thought, let's just have the kids for dinner this weekend before Thanksgiving. And that's been a disaster as far as menu goes.
I was just going to say, and what are we having?
Yeah, because we don't want to do turkey, because we're having, you'll have a lot of turkey this week. And so we were going to do Chinese. That was a disaster because some of the kids don't like Chinese. One of my kids really wanted it, but then he complained that we weren't just going to order takeout. And anyway, as I told Summer this morning, and she was all on board, we're going to do a very Mexican Thanksgiving dinner we'll have like ground beef, but we'll also have shrimp. I may make some chorizo. I don't know. We've got options. So
eat your chips and salsa and
just be grateful. The point is to get together and to be thankful and to spend time together. So yeah, that's where we're at. All right. So yeah, I'm thankful for that. And then again, we just appreciate all the prayers. And I know we got a full weekend. We'll pray for some of you guys as well. If you reach out and let us know, again, especially families that have lost kids, you are on our hearts right now as well. I know the holidays are hard. So with all that being said, we appreciate you guys taking some time to spend with us this week. As always, hope you have a wonderful week, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at blendedblessedalwaysamess.com.
Reach out to us on any of our social channels. We would love to hear from you. Have a great week.